Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 3 of the For Real podcast. It's an honor to be here as always. We have Kayla, we have Summer. We really have everything we need as long as we have Kayla and Summer. Special thanks to Jordan and Stevie for joining us on our last episode. Special thanks to all of you for listening and providing comments and feedback. We thrive off it. We greatly appreciate it. And we are very excited to announce that in addition to our video platform available on Facebook, on YouTube, all of the Yves Saint Bernard and Pet Skin Academy platforms, at the time of this release, we are also now available streaming on all podcast platforms, anywhere you consume your audio content, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all of the above. The For Real podcast is now available on those platforms. Like and subscribe, please. And ladies, today we are talking about a doozy of a topic. It's something I know very little bit about, so you'll have to assume that I'm an idiot and I know nothing. Shouldn't be too difficult. But today we are talking about the Deshed. In layman's terms, please. What actually is a Deshed? What all does it entail? And what are the benefits to a Deshed? Kayla, you know I go to you first.
Always. Why me? I think right now too, we're going into that season that, the days get longer, the dogs start to blow coat as you hear, clients come in and say, my dog's shedding everywhere. You're never going to stop shedding. If someone comes in asking for specifically a D-shed, it's pretty much removing all of that dead hair, skin like skin cells, all the dander, all the dead undercoat, so it's not, clogging their vacuum weekly.
When someone like myself hears the word Deshed, I automatically think like, okay, we're going to take the loose hair and we're going to brush it all off. But I'm sure it's more intricate than that. And it's a very highly touted, often talked about subject that I see on social media. So
So I
Oh,
feel like the term deshed is a loose term in our industry. When I started first pet grooming, it was they wanted to deshed everything. And depending on the products and what you use, depends on if you can use technically a deshed shampoo or conditioner, well, and conditioner. Um, so some of these products that we have out there are, yes, removing so much coat, but it's actually causing the coat to produce more hair and more of that like spay coat kind of hair, which is doing the opposite of what we want to happen.
basically, what we're trying to get to is it is a way of removing all the coat that's falling off a dog that is shedding.
A
Seasonally,
coat
they go
that's
through different
ready,
things. Coat that's ready
ready
to
to.
go.
So will a pet parent come in to see either one of you and say, I want a Deshed? Do they actually even know what they're asking for? Are they aware of when their pet actually needs and can benefit from a Deshed?
Most pet parents do not know when their dog needs a deshed. They just know that, oh, this is something that I've heard used. So they will always ask for a deshed. A corgi, those people are always going to ask for a deshed, no matter what. A shepherd, a lab, because they see that hair. There has been a lot of advertising to pet parents that desheds remove all that hair and they're not going to shed anymore, which is not the case. Because the dogs have a 21-day cycle on their skin and their coat, well, parts of their coat. It is always rotating. So, yeah, I might do as much brushing as I humanly possible to get as much hair out as possible, but it's never going to stop shedding altogether. So I feel like pet parents just use the word deshed as when I walk away from this place, I don't want to rub my dog and have a handful of hair, pretty much. I mean, Kayla, what do you think?
I mean, yeah. Well, the other piece is I feel like typically when they come to you, it's usually when they're overdue. So they come in because the hair is getting ridiculous. Um, I think my favorite line too is like, I have a dog that doesn't shed. Every dog sheds. Every single dog sheds. We shed. I shed more than my dog sometimes. But I think that's what they do is they come in when they're like at their wit's end and you get we're in April right now, so we're getting those couple time a year people going, oh my God, they're just out of control shedding. And it's like, well, if you'd stay on a routine schedule, you wouldn't have this problem. Um, but I'm not sure they always know because I know it's a big complaint where you'll get a client will call back, especially when I was like in corporate. You'd get the phone call like, well, my dog's shedding more. Well, there's a reason. The other piece too, it's not always about the products either. It's about the technique of what you're doing and the maintenance schedule on it. I don't believe that clients also always know what they're asking for. And sometimes I don't think groomers really know what we're ideally doing with the D-shed. I mean, we can get into that and what it is. And I know my phone's been ringing off the hook right now. I need my bath now. Um,
Well, and those are the dogs that get the D sheds. Those are the clients who are like, oh, they only need to be done once or twice a year. Um, so that's the other aspect of it. They know either really, really fluffy and with all of this coat, or where you can see down to the skin because the coat hasn't been maintained well enough. I feel like a lot of the dogs that would require quote unquote D sheds are the dogs that we don't see enough. Um, so we're fighting with that.
if I had a client that was like, "Oh, my neighbor got a new dog, but it's a lab. It doesn't need grooming." And I'm like, "Actually, they need more grooming. They have more oil in their skin. It's going to hang on to all the hair, all the dead coat, the sebum. Like, no, they need to be groomed more."
Do we need to know the difference between what is considered hair and what is considered fur? Obviously, some breeds are more prone to copious amounts of shedding than others, but like you said, all breeds shed to some degree. So, are there breeds that don't benefit from a deshed? Is it important to know the difference between coat types and hair versus fur, or does that not factor in?
Go, Summer. Me, you. I mean, technically,
So
hair and fur is the same thing.
Okay.
I think it's a common piece that people will say dog breeds that shed, they say have fur. You'll hear a client also say, "Well, my dog has hair."
I certainly say that. So yes.
Technically, fur and hair, if you look at them under, they're the same thing. Um, but we'll for the fun of it, we will say fur. It sheds is what you find around your house. Um,
So
Go
when
ahead.
you're looking at coat types have a large factor in this. So, your curly coats, my standard poodle, if I don't bathe her for 8 weeks, it will look like when I dry her, it will look like I blew out a double coated dog on my wall. Because yes, they do shed some of that, undercoat out. Hell, if you look at, the poodles who go through puppy coat change, they're shedding all that stuff out that they don't need anymore. So it is really important to know your coats and to know, oh, I have a combination coat since we're getting a lot of those doodles. A lot of those doodles will shed coat. They more than your poodle would, more than, some of the other things. So it's understanding that, okay, yes, that looks like it has maybe a poodle coat, but it has more of an undercoat like the golden that it's bred with. So understanding like that breed, that specific dog might need a D shed. So understanding like the basis of what those coat types are and how sometimes they mix together when we're getting all these combination coats and understanding that I think is very important. And some dogs, you don't want to take all that hair out. Um, a lot of the benefits of, continuously bathing your dog and drying your dog is keeping that coat on a rotation so you never get that really big blow, where they go down to nothing. What about you, Kayla?
I'm just laughing at, no, don't ask. No, I love that you brought up doodles though, because I mean, you can literally get a dog that is mostly poodle that doesn't really shed out hair until you're blow drying it or brushing it, much like, human hair. Like I don't, I go in the shower, if I blow dry my hair, I might have some hair in the brush, still shedding. You have one that maybe is a 50-50 split and they have a wire coat where you could technically hand strip it if you really wanted to.
Those are my
But also
favorite.
hand stripping is just controlled shedding, really. And then, all the way to the dogs that come to you that look like a golden, and they go, "This is a doodle," and it's shedding more than like a golden retriever would. Um, but yeah, I think going back to just okay, keeping these dogs on schedules, making sure, like Summer had said, there's that 21-day cycle where the skin goes from basically the basement layer of all the way up to the top. The hair is only going to grow to a certain length on some breeds. Some breeds are going to go much longer. You're going to maintain that coat a little bit different, but you have those secondary hairs that's your undercoat. And that's the hair that's going to grow to a length and die, um, and shed out. But if you're not maintaining those coats, that sebum builds up on that layer. All the dead skin cells are stuck there. The oils are stuck there. The dead coat's stuck there. And then you come to spring, and all of a sudden the hair's really letting go of that winter. And actually, going from summer into winter, it does the same thing. They blow going into fall, so they can grow in their winter coat. If you're not maintaining that, now you have a buildup of like 3 months of hair that's stuck instead of saying, like, okay, how about every 3 weeks we bathe your dog, remove all this, um, and set yourself up for success. But I think when we get those dogs that are very behind their maintenance schedule is when I would say, let's do a D-shed on your dog and do the correct process, using the correct technique, remove all of that, and then you're good to go. I love when I hear like, oh, they might shed more after this. They should. It usually means the technique was wrong. Because what I know for me and probably Summer too, when they leave my van, or back when I was brick and mortar, if I use the same technique, we adjust a little bit because obviously I have limited water in a mobile van. Um, they shouldn't be shedding the way they were when they showed up, if not worse. Um, but that's why, there's, you do your close open close, which we can talk about to get rid of some of that gross stuff so that you can get the hair to release. If you're not on a maintenance schedule. I think if you're on a maintenance, I don't know if you need to do a D-shed, to be honest, because you're already on top of it.
No, because it cycles out the coat enough. That's how a lot of dog show people actually keep their double coated dogs in coat all year round, is by keeping that coat cycling out so that they always have a beautiful, healthy coat.
Can you walk me through the process of what it actually looks like when a dog comes into your establishment? Are they primarily on the grooming table for this, being brushed? Are they in the tub? Is it a combination? What does the process actually look like? What does it entail? Because Dr. Favor's article that he wrote is called The Dreaded D-Shed, right? So it must be some sort of arduous process. But what does the actual process look like from start to finish? Is every dog different? Is there a protocol that you follow? What is that process like?
I preferably, I don't want to have to brush that much. I don't want to have to scrub that much. I would rather work smarter, not harder for me. So, and especially with, I mean, I'll talk about when I'm in my van because again, the limited water, it technique's got to be right, or I run out, or I ask my client if I can refill. But if I have a dog come into me, soon as I get it in my hands, I am spraying some kind of rehydration spray in it, which is one of the conditioners. It's usually Peck, to be honest, because it's readily there. There you go, Summer. That orange Peck. Oh, you're good. But I will put that right on the dog, let it hang out on the table while I get my tub ready. Again, mobile, so the tub's behind me. I'm turning on the water heater, getting everything ready to go. If I can schedule my dishes first thing in the morning, I will get to why I do this, but I will fill the tub before I leave my house so that because I have a 50-gallon freshwater tank, I can put my first bath already kind of ready to go. So I kind of give myself a little couple extra gallons for this. And it's the first dog of the day. My sudser has been cleaned and disinfected from the previous night. I'm not a huge fan of sudsers, but mobile and having to figure out how to um main preserve water, I guess. So while I'm getting the water here going, the reason I spray that rehydration spray on with a humectant conditioner, usually orange pack, it will start to hydrate that hair, but it also will start to take all that sebum and the dead oils and skin cells and just the gross stuff. It will start to break it down. So by the time I'm ready to put that dog in the tub, I rinse that off. I can now shampoo and I could start my close open close. So when you add shampoo first or you sometimes will see how people will take a dog and blow dry it to open the coat. Yes, opening the coat, you can get to the skin a little bit better. So I understand how people can do that. I would be masking. I don't like to do it in a van personally because even with my vents going, I don't need all that. You see that cloudy white, gross. That's all the dead crap you don't want in your lungs. So I'll throw them right from there into the tub. And when you add shampoo first, that's what I was saying, my brain today. Um, it almost like hardens up that oil because oil does not want to break down with a shampoo. Oil's going to break up oil. So by adding that rehydration spray in the beginning, I'm adding oils to the coat that's going to penetrate through all of that sebum layer of just grossness that's been built up and all the hair stuck in it. When I rehydrate and add the dog to the tub and then rinse that, that's my first close. If it's a really severely overdue, I might then add in like froth down some peck and actually give it a true first step. If it's really, really, really bad. And then I'll rinse that and then I will add shampoo. So the reason I fill the tub first is in my shampoo, I'm going to use that as a rinse. I'm going to use it as a recirculating rinse. Because if I were to sit there and try to basically start washing out my first two steps, I'm going to go through a lot of my water. So I actually do use my recirculator that way. That's why it's the first dog, because I don't want to be recirculating whatever is built up in that sudsor. So I'll shampoo it. I use the Mineral H Summer, if you'd like to show us what that is. And so what that's gonna do is that, and now that I've kind of like liquefied all my oils and sebum and all that stuff, I'm getting there. You are so funny. I will now use the shampoo, a mild shampoo, nothing that's gonna overreact that skin to go, oh crap, I've stripped everything. I need to replenish myself with oils and all this. It's mild. It's going to take that layer of crud out of there. And I add Sil Plus, which is that green little squirty bottle. That is gold. Never drop it on your floor. Never spill it. It is plant-based silicone. It will allow the skin still to breathe. It's not going to dry out your hair. It's great. But it makes it slippery. So now shampoo, it rinses it washes off all that stuff I've loosened up with my first step. And then what I at that point do is I take my nozzle on my hardest setting that is safe for the dog. I usually use the Jet, which is very similar to the Save Your Fur nozzle. I can't use that in my van because the water pump's not strong enough to actually do it. So this is how I've worked around that. And I basically will start to rinse out all that stuff. And what it does is that all that dead oil, everything, the skin, the hair is going to fall into my tub. And then once I'm rinsed, I will then follow it up with a rehydration, which is usually PEC and pH balance. And what that's going to do for me is it closes the hair follicle, all that dryness that might be stuck, that the skin wants to breathe, the hair now can breathe, and everything's in the tub. So when I do finally go to that final blow dry, it slips out and it's not flying around my van because it's all in the tub, which is awesome. Ideally, most of it for me is in the tub. I don't like having the snow globe effect in the van. I don't know how you do it, Summer. I know you sometimes will blow out a dog if you have to. But
So
you do a lot of bigger dogs than I do.
yeah, so I don't know how I became the person around this area to do the Newfoundlands, the Akitas,
You
the
have Pyrenees.
Pyrenees. Like I have probably about 20 of those on my schedule. So I wear a mask
You wear a mask.
because I prefer not to die of groomer's lung. Um, and then what I have actually done is at the top, because I'm also mobile. So at the top of my tub, I have hooks and I have a net that I can put in front of my tub. And then I just snake my hand through with my dryer. And so all of my pre-blow is going in my tub.
You keep your dog's head out of that net.
Yes, yes, true.
I'm
Um,
just saying.
yeah,
We don't
yeah.
want them breathing it in too.
Well, and they're like it's not a full sealed like thing. It is just enough netting that it's keeping the majority of that hair in because I don't want to have to clean that up all over my van. because time is money, and having to spend the time cleaning the whole entire van before the next client is a pain. So, um, and it is, I am not sitting there for 20, 30 minutes pre-blowing this dog. It is a quick get that coat out. If I am seeing matting or really impacted coats, that's where I'm going in with my hydration spray. I do the orange pack and the pH. It's just easier at that time with the air to have it in a spray bottle and get those areas saturated, as well as I'm working it through the coat. So that is my close. And then all the netting comes down and I vacuum out my tub. I have very little hair that's actually around my truck. I use the same stuff as Kayla. I just end up frothing it though. Um,
Oh, I froth.
so
Everything is froth for me.
yeah. Well, we're yeah, and I don't end up using the recirculator just because.
The reason I froth it still, even though I'm using the recirculator's rinse, is because I use so little product that by the time it actually rinses out into that fresh water I have in the tub to go, it's such a minute amount that it doesn't really do what
Yeah.
I need.
Well, so I've had it sit with the hydration spray, and then while that's sitting, I am working on getting my shampoo ready. And I'm going to be honest, I have broken so many frothers, like the top of the egg part, but I have so many of the little bottom parts. It's great because I'm like mixing up my shampoos. I already have my conditioner like ready to go to throw the frother on when I'm ready to use it. I do a quick rinse throughout the whole dog. I'm not sitting there making sure that water's running clean from the conditioner or anything like that. I do enough where the majority of it is out. And then I go in and they get a really good scrub with the pH, not pH, sorry, mineral H,
Mineral H.
and then the sill. Um, and that sill, like, it just makes the hair fall out.
And if
I
there's
like
matting, it helps work out
what?
that packed, netty, gross.
Yeah, yeah, and like, and those when I'm blowing through, if I see that those are like, oh, those are really horrible spots or they're gross, I am like saturating that stuff. I'm not just misting the hydration spray for your first close. I'm not just misting it. It is soaking. Um and then I, wash the dog. Then I do my second close, and that's in the orange pack and pH. And I have the little center part on my whatchamacallit nozzle. And it's like these, it makes it, how,
Like a jet. Like,
yeah, but how at like the public pools they had those showers that you're like, why is it so powerful? It does that. So I use
or it
that and
takes the
I
first
like,
layer of skin off.
yeah, I mean, kind of, but not really. So I sit there and I, start at the top of my dog and I work through with that jet pretty much. And you can watch the hair just line up.
The nail
And
cloth.
it ends up being that you have more hair in the tub than you do when you're drying. So also in mobile, it's very important to make sure you have clean out your drains as you're doing this, unless you're going to clog everything. So that's how I do it. And then the drying time, with how hydrated that coat is and the slip of the sill really does, like, they dry out a lot faster. I mean, I can get a Newfoundland, a Great Pyrenees, all these dogs done in about 2 hours and 15 minutes, depending on the coats. For the most part, in a
With a
mobile,
well-behaved
which
dog.
I mean, I do Great Pyrenees,
You're
so
fast. You're fast.
but like I couldn't do that if I was not using the process of close open close with the products we have. Um, so yeah, that's kind of my process. I also do get a lot of those dogs that are, oh, I took this to another groomer. It was done 6 weeks ago.
It's a mess.
And it's a mess because they didn't get it dry all the way, so the hair didn't just come out. They didn't wash it well enough. So the hair just, wasn't released because all that built up skin and debris is holding that hair in that needs to be released. So I get a lot of those where you're like, they said they had to shave it, and I said no, and then we found you, so thank God. And then those are the ones who normally, end up having to blow bald, where all you have is the guard hair because everything else was so impacted and stuck in there that their coat didn't have any space to breathe. So,
Well, when you look at the actual hair too, like if you could look at these dogs that typically come in that are packed like that, the coat is so starved of hydration that if you were to look at like a hair follicle under a microscope, it looks like a pine cone because all of the plaque on that on the actual hair shaft itself is just sticking straight out because it's trying to get any moisture from the air. Oh, you're so funny, Summer. Um, and so you basically have like a Velcro effect. And then add in now there's oil buildup. Well, oil's blocking all of your hydration. So now that hair is like starving and it can't get nutrition. It can't get hydration. It's just going to basically mat to itself. So that's why sometimes when you do are de-shedding or really blowing coat, you have bald spots. You might have hot spots under there because you have such like yeast buildup. But like we've all been there when like the Newfoundland walks in and you can smell it. You're like, oh, you need help, buddy. The nice thing about using a close open close to do a de-shed is that you're rehydrating that hair. So those plaques are going to close. The hair is going to get nice and like hydrated and slippery, but you don't have all these things sticking out. Everything is smooth. So when you are doing that last rinse, everything slips out. But also when you're drying and that hair is nice and closed and everything's happy, is that water slips off. It's already absorbed everything it can. It's not you don't get all that moisture and humidity stuck in there.
not holding on to
It's not
dear
holding
life
on
for
to it.
everything it can get.
Yeah. And and because a lot of those dogs did go all winter and they're like, oh, we don't want to de-shed them. They'll be cold. And you're, no, it's not right. Um, so yeah, that's why, hydration, I think, is a huge, huge part of it. And I think that, Summer, you had mentioned, it's kind of got my brain going, was when they'll say, oh, I went to this other groomer and it got matted after I left and blah, blah, blah. 'Cause I think a lot of groomers reach for a de-shed shampoo, which a lot of the ones out there I find are very harsh to really cut. They have to cut through all that grease and oil, and then they're not conditioning. So now you've stripped everything. They might be clean, but the skin and the coat is starving. And so it's going to remat because now you have again pine cone Velcro hair. And is it actually dry all the way? I don't know, but a few weeks later back, the dog's already rematted and it hasn't completely been de-shedded out because now, well, there's still hair stuck. And also you've stripped the skin, so skin's gonna go, oh my God, I need my natural oils back. It's gonna overproduce sebum, and now you are in a cycle. So now you have this overproduction of oil. You see those greasy, greasy dogs come in, like a bulldog. You're these greasy dogs, now you're stripping. You're not re-adding back in your hydration. So now they're still shedding. They're all packed. Oh, they come back to the groomer, they do it again. It's an endless cycle. So that's also why whenever I do a shedding or de-shed or rehydrate, rehydrate, please rehydrate, because some emollients are also still going to block that hydration. Good.
As I am drying through that coat, I will also take the hydration spray and I will continuously spray it through that coat. Um, you know, if it didn't absorb, what it needed from the conditioner, which my hydration spray is pretty much the same thing I use for the conditioner. It gives it that extra little slip. It gives that extra little hydration. I'm not soaking it at that time. I'm just misting it as I'm blowing, while I'm brushing, because I will go through and I will line brush, and I will mist that through. And it really does make a difference with just making sure that coat is hydrated and healthy so that it does not want to go from this to this. Because you want that coat to be able to do what it was made to do. If it's doing this, it's not able to ventilate that coat for when the dog is getting warm. These dogs have their coats for a reason. It's to keep them warm in the winter and cool in the summer. So this can't keep them cool in the summer.
Keep nice and warm in the summer.
That's when we have those people who want to shave their dog.
That actually is my next question. You both mentioned it in doing research on a Deshed. It's almost synonymous with people commenting, and if you look at Reddit, which no one should ever look at ever, but if you do, it's almost like for every reason that you ladies just outlined, and the myriad of reasons why this seems like such an intricate process. A lot of people are like, well, why don't you just shave them? Why don't you just shave them? I mean, you guys mentioned it, and I'm sure shaving can be detrimental for many reasons. But to the layman, to the average person who's like, "Oh, my dog's matted, whatever, I'll just shave it off." What are the scientific reasons why we don't usually or ever want to do that?
Okay, so when you're looking at the base of the hair, there is a muscle around that hair. Um, my the
Erector
my
pili.
there we go. I was going to say micro, and I was like, that's not right. The erector papillae, which is going to open up, stand up when it needs to, and lay down when it needs to, and
Almost
that
when they have like their hackles up too. Like
yeah,
it's that same muscle.
that's distributing oils. That's ventilating the coat. When you shave that, you have now disrupted that muscle in that coat. So it isn't able to, lay down to protect it from the sun and then to ventilate it when they're warm. So,
I almost think of it like opening like your window on a really hot sunny day and you want to just let out some heat and let some nice cool air get in there and like closing everything in when you're really like cold and you need some warmth. They, when you take away the hair, you're basically going like, well, have all the environment.
like
Um,
when you look at people who live in desert land, they aren't going naked. They're wearing layers. That's to keep them cool. That's the same thing that our coats do. That those double coats do. So yeah, you're taking away all the protection of the hair that is there for that dog.
Summer,
Now, when you
what is a double coated dog for my clarity? Is that like a husky, a golden, things like that?
yeah, all of the above.
Oh my God, I can't believe that. I
Yeah,
got
right.
a male,
Husky,
a man
I
said
know.
something correct.
Yeah, so like even your labs, those are double coated.
So
What
who?
we
So what?
seal,
What's a what? I'm sorry to interrupt, but what? So what would be like a single coated dog then?
like a poodle, although
Mhm.
technically they do have an undercoat, but your breeds that definitely that need haircuts is a good
Yeah,
one. The breeds that, like a Lhasa, Yorkie, like the ones that you see that have those drop coats or and we could get nerdy. There's many coat types, but for the most part, when you're talking double coated dogs, it's the dogs that when you go over to someone's house and you start petting them and the hair just does this, it just flies. Double coat.
it's a lot of what we talk about is our short and our medium length coats.
Yeah, your shepherds, your labs, I mean, short coat would be your boxer, your Doberman, the little pit bulls that have the little spiky hair and that just shed everywhere. Even like, yeah, all of those.
Yeah.
So
Um,
is shaving ever a good idea in your opinion? I know it's slightly unrelated, but
if I can avoid it, so the other thing too is like what Summer was saying, like when the hair can raise and lower, and like why you would deshed is like in the summer you want to get that dead undercoat out so that so like I said earlier, there's primary hair and then the secondary hair. Secondary hair is that fuzz. Like if you ever see like a dog shedding, it's typically not primarily like that wiry top coat. Like when you touch a lab, they have that like very shiny, thicker hair on the top. It's almost like your shade. So when you can get rid of all that undercoat that's blowing out and that hair can lay here and block all the environment, you're good to go. So the only time I preferably I try to avoid shaving at all costs because the other thing too is when you do shave a dog, You'll see this in Pomeranians a lot. And
Kayla,
sometimes there is a
can I just
go.
specify we're talking about short and medium length coats at this time, right?
I'm just talking double coat.
Okay. All right. No, I just wanted to specify so that we
Yeah.
had that.
I derailed
Shave.
you, ladies. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. There's always derailing. We pivot. Remember pivot.
It's
Um,
us.
Pivoting. So if you, I'm just gonna talk about palms because we know, like, you see the palms come in and have no hair left because some groomer, even though we've warned them. So what happens is you shave all of that off. As the primary hair tries to grow back, it can't because the secondary hair is basically choking out. So now you have this like dense, awful cotton that looks like somebody felt the dog. Um, and then basically overheat. There's more coat maintenance with that. It's just the coat can't grow back properly. You really got to rehab those to get back. It's not saying they can't. Sometimes it is an underlying health problem. So if you do have a dog that just the hair's not growing back for some reason, there could be something going on underlying, autoimmune, imbalance in some kind of blood level, thyroid. Um, but there are times that I will shave one. Um, really like so right now I can give an example. There is she might listen to this, I don't know. But she has an elderly dog. It is a double-coated dog. It's a Belgian sheepdog. And he's older. He doesn't want to be brushed anymore. You know, he's got arthritis. He's there in age. He's has a wonderful career of doing agility when he's younger. Like probably got some arthritis. And none of us get out of this alive without some sort of arthritis. He doesn't want to be brushed. It's not fun. So, do we shave him? No. Do we take the length off of him so it's easier maintenance on an elderly dog? Yes. I will not take him right down to the skin. Because the other piece of that is, as dogs age, if they have like a traumatic thing happen, they need surgery, something like that, they also need to be able to, and my brain's going, there is a word for this, and I know Dr. To's going to hear me and go, I know you're talking about this, and you got to get the word right. They can regulate their temperature. When something happens, like say a dog got hit by a car and they go into shock, they can't regulate their body temperature if you shaved them. They go into surgery, they can't regulate their body temperature. I hope that dog's not a senior because you may have some issues. And that's a very severe example. But I really try to educate as much as I can that, you are disrupting, and it might. My favorite too, though, is like in the summer when I have like a golden. They say, oh, they like to swim, they like to do all this stuff, blah, blah, blah. They get hot. Okay. Do you have central air in your house? Because I'm mobile, I tend to be able to figure that does help when you can actually go in their home. Well, yeah. I'm like, okay, if I take your dog down to 7 blade, which is like an eighth of an inch, which is shaved, it lives inside. Your house is kept at what degree? Like, they're not living outside. And if they are living outside, I still don't want to take away their coat because now the sun's beating down on them. Well, if I shaved them, there's no protection from the heat. So there's really not a good reason to shave a dog, and I know I will die on that hill. Um, do I There's that one reason that I will still take a dog's coat short with a lot of education and maintenance, and that dog must stay on a maintenance schedule with me to make sure I can promote the coat to grow properly back and we can maintain it.
If you don't, ends it? What in the
That's a good one.
world? And it ends up creating more work and more impaction if you don't maintain that coat. Um, I I don't actually have a double coat that I shave down right now or cut down. Um, and it is well because I run my own business and I can say no.
Yeah.
That has a
Hmm.
lot to do with it, knowing the policies um of your salon. So if somebody came up to me and I gave them every piece of information I possibly could about the health risks, the risks to the skin, the risks to the coat, everything. If I gave this person all the information that I had, and they're like, "Well, I still want it done," I would really have to think about if I was going to do that. Like
That's why I have
realistically,
one. I have one.
right?
Oh, two. Two. There is another one, but it's basically we take the furnishings off, which
Yeah.
doesn't really count. And it's because it
Right.
swims and it hates to be brushed and it's a golden.
Well,
But
and
the
I'm
coat
not
is
saying,
kept.
and when I'm saying like double coats, I will I will trim up furnishings. I will trim up butts. Like that tails, like pretty much the bottom half of the dog.
There is nothing cuter than a corgi butt that's been
Oh
trimmed.
yeah.
Do you like and my
Um,
tail pay, my little guy with the tail pay? The one that this is a segue. I'm sorry. He has no tail. I don't think he was ever docked either, like, but he has like an indent, and his owner feels that he is very self-conscious about his tail. He's a fluffy or woolly corgi. So we do shape him to look like a corgi, and then I create him a tail, and his mother has called it the tail pay. But he is another dog that we do technically. I do remove a good portion of that top coat, which isn't ideal. He's on an every 3 week schedule to make sure he's staying, you know, properly
yeah.
maintained. The coat's healthy. It's fine. His little tail pay that wiggles.
Pretty
He's a good
much the
boy.
more trimming you do to your double coats, the shorter length they can go between appointments.
Yep.
As half as backwards as that sounds, it's the truth. You are affecting that coat. Like even on butts, I will advocate to rake out a butt before actually doing a like contour trim on the butt. And it all comes down to when that coat grows in, it's going to be so much harder to deal with a dog that I've actually like scissored up the butt. So,
I love how many times you just said but. Sorry.
well, it is premium.
Oh God.
You guys keep leading me into my next questions, though, which is very helpful. So, this is sort of directed towards pet parents, and this is a multi tiered question. So, by the time a deshed is actually necessary, in your opinion, is it typically because the dogs have been neglected to some degree or they haven't been visiting the groomer often enough? And what is the frequency that someone to possibly even alleviate a deshed altogether, how often should they be bringing their pets, their dogs, into the groomers for regular maintenance?
Ideally once a month, I think.
Yep.
Um, and I don't like to call it neglect, overdue. If they're coming in for a D shed and they're packed and they've got, have you ever seen, I mean, Jordan, you've probably walked around with even your dog and you see those little tufts in the rear legs that you can just pluck all these
Mhm.
little, if you see that, the dog's overdue. Um, I will say another thing I do tell clients, especially when you get a newer dog home, they're going to get spayed or neutered, they're going under anesthesia. That can cause a coat to blow. So I tend to tell people to come in before a surgery or a medical procedure and then come in as soon as they can after. So usually if they get like a spay, like 2 weeks to come back. Anesthesia tends to make dogs blow coat. It makes human hair, you'll find, thins out for a hot minute.
It made
Um,
my Bichon blow coat.
like, oh yeah. So I do take to tell people to do that because I think a lot of the times too, when you get a doodle home and they haven't really been groomed that first year as much as they should be, monthly guys, and then they go get spayed, and then all of a sudden they're like, well, I couldn't get him into the groomer because we got spayed. It's been 2 weeks, and all of a sudden they're mad at like horribly, and you're like, well, because they blew coat and they were overdue. So, you know, I don't like to use neglect sometimes because I know pet parents hear that and they feel that's make you feel bad. What you don't know. But as Summer likes to say, but ideally, because again, there's that whole skin coat cycle of 21 days from the base layer of your skin all the way to the top, when it dies and it needs to go 21 days. So if you're going 2 months, you've had two cycles. Really want one. I mean, our show dogs, if you're using the right products too, and making sure you're hydrating, you're not going to dry them out. I hear that a lot. I don't want my dog washed weekly. I might dry them out. Show dogs can sometimes get washed a couple times a week and they're fine. You know, my dogs that don't show, actually, ideally, they're usually the cobbler's children, I'll be honest. But weekly, weekly. But yeah, Summer, go for it.
So, kind of what I like to say is if you see and you know that your dog needs to be groomed, then it needed to be groomed a month ago. Um, the way I set my clients up, like if if you have to work on your dog, then it needed to have come in. So I'm very much, I would love all my double coats to be on a 4 week schedule. Um, Now with the Newfoundlands and Great Pyrenees, it it's financially a big price tag. So they
But if they're
do end
done
up,
more frequently, if you go longer and the groom takes longer because they're overdue, you're going to get charged more. If you come on a schedule, technically you might end up paying the same, but your dog looks better, if not less.
I mean, their dog will definitely look better. I've done the math with my clients, and I figured out it would be about the same.
Yeah. But still, the same, but
Um,
your dog doesn't have to go through like a several
yeah,
hour longer than you'd expect session. And then they like
yeah,
to be groomed because they come more frequently.
yep. Well, that's the other aspect of it. So, I have a lot of my like Newfs and Great Pyrenees on a 6 week schedule. So yes, they're technically going through 2 cycles, but it, it's what works for the clients and what works for what I can do in my truck, and for scheduling wise as well. So that's the other part you need to think about is what you're going to require of those dogs. If you don't run your own business, talk to your management and ask them. Are they going to say, "Oh no, we really love those once a year clients," or are they going to be like, "Oh, you're telling me that you can convince them to come in more often and spend more money to get their dog to look better and we're going to have better results?" Most business owners will say, yes, educate them, let them know. But you need, as an employee, need to have management behind you so that when you say, hey, you really, that once a year dog, I really need to see your dog twice a year. It would really benefit them. And then you see them twice a year. You're going to say, okay, so we should really see them every 4 months. But if they call in and your manager answers the phone and she's like, oh, no, once a year is fine. No, you need to have that management able to back you up. So, talk to your management, talk to the business owner, figure out what their policies are and what their expectations are of clients as well. It's also when you get these dogs on even a 6 week schedule, 6 to 8 week schedule, your body is not going to die. Where those once a year grooms, man, like I remember grooming some of those, and you're like, oh, my shoulder, my back. Why did I spend one whole day doing this one dog? It should not take that long. That's not fair for you. It's not fair for the dog. Like, then the dogs aren't going to like it. We all want this to be a positive experience for the dog. And that's part of starting them out as puppies. That's, or whenever the owners get them, starting them out, building up that relationship, getting them on that maintenance schedule so they don't have these large traumatic rooms. If they see you 1 time a year versus 12 times a year, that dog is going to feel more comfortable. You become part of their family. That dog sees you as part of their pack. They're okay. They're relaxed. Their feet don't hurt because their nails are so long. You're not having to pull on them because, oh, their armpits are matted. So really set yourself up for success. Save your body as well because, you only have one body. If you want to groom past 30,
I love that you said 30.
yes, yes, because I'm 34. And if I didn't care about my body, I wouldn't be grooming.
You look at
And
me
I,
like me at 30, almost 38.
Are there any signs that excessive shedding may be more than just a seasonal shift and it could actually be a medical issue or a skin condition?
I mean,
Yes.
if it's off of the seasons,
Yeah. Or
if
if you
it's
do see a
really,
dog, like if a dog comes in a lot and you're seeing a lot of shedding, and usually at the skin, you will see, extra flaking or redness, or you might see something that looks abnormal. It could. Um, it's. I'm just thinking in my head. There's like ichthyosis. There are conditions that can definitely make
Yeah,
a dog, you know,
some thyroid
thyroid,
issues.
stuff like that.
Hypothyroid can cause hair loss.
Yeah.
So that, and you don't just automatically, oh, it has no hair.
Well, I
It's
mean,
a
look at poodles when they
slow,
can
it's
get
a slow
SA.
process. Yeah.
All of a sudden they have this beautiful poodle with all this coat, and then all of a sudden one day they go, "Are you getting thin?" And it starts to thin out, and then you look a little bit closer, and then you get this scaly, red, irritated skin that can't grow hair, and they can get that. There's
So,
no genetic test for it, so you kind of just hope. I mean, but then look at the autoimmune diseases too. You have Addison's, you have Cushing's, you have Um, you can have a pattern sometimes that's very simply, oh, this dog has fleas, and I can see it before I even know I've seen a flea, or they're itching all their hair out. So, yeah, there's definitely with hair loss or shedding, or that you got to kind of look at all the clues you can find. Sometimes you do have to send to a vet. I mean, a lot of the times to see what's going on internally to rule out what could be causing it. We can, but that's also why you should be on a maintenance schedule. A groomer is going to see your dog if they see him, if they do see him every 4 weeks, they're going to see him 12 times and note any changes. With the vet, they'll see him like a year later. Are you really going to notice a little bit of hair loss until it becomes worse? Um, you know, all the time I'm sending dogs where I go, I don't remember this. I have a mini poodle I was doing that I know has some like digestive issues, and he has hot hose broken, as I've learned the van many times. She's been asking me for someone to come help her. And, I noticed like his elbows around some joints were a little thin. And I'm going, this is weird. And I did mention it to her because I said, let's keep an eye on it. If it gets worse, or if the skin turns red, or if we get dry, and his skin was very dry that day, but which could also, so yes, the short and long of it is yes, definitely there are things.
as, as groomers, we need to be vigilant and not understand, be able to communicate with our clients and remember what our dogs look like. So, that's where it does when look at a dog monthly. We're going to see these minute things and we're going to be like, okay, there's something funky going on because we're not vets. So, I would talk to my vet and your vet, and I'd bring up the fact that, oh, but he has a little bit of drier skin. There's a bit of hair loss. Trying to find those targeted questions or giving those targeted questions to your client so that they can go to the vet. Um, I also like to have a little Polaroid camera in my truck so that if I do see something that, on a double coat or something like that, I'll take a photo of it so that I can be like, here you go. This is what I'm seeing. And I'll like write a note on it and be like, you can bring this to your vet. You could take it and send it to your vet. Um, so as groomers, we are the front line to be able to see that. As pet parents, a lot of our pet parents miss that because they're not the ones to see them freshly bathed out. The
Right.
other thing to know is your breeds, and even
Yeah.
with the mixed breeds. So you look at like a Cocker Spaniel. Those can pattern out. An Irish Water
Explain what
Spaniel.
patterning is.
I mean, the hair naturally falls out in those areas.
There you go.
Okay, so like those breeds can
An
pattern out,
Afghan.
and
Afghan.
yep, it
Irish
it's
water spaniel.
not. Yep, it is not something that is a health issue. It is just the breed. So
Genetics and luck of the draw.
yep, as a groomer, understanding what those breeds are, and you know, I know that an Afghan at a year old
Their
is
mutton
going
chops fall out.
their face falls out, their saddle starts to fall. I mean, hell, you can go from this really fluffy Afghan leg down to like the
They look
beautiful
like a
drop coat.
Muppet. They are the funniest looking puppies. Jordan, if you've ever seen an Afghan
I
puppy, you
love
need
them.
to. They just, and
But
then they
the
turn into this regal, beautiful. I mean, they're beautiful, but I would love an Afghan.
Those
Uh,
dogs, when they go through coat change, which they're dropping hair, they're dropping all that undercoat. I've bathed one, put it in the crate to go to bed, come back the next morning, and it has dreadlocks. So understanding the coats, as a groomer, what the coats for those breeds do. So that if you're like, oh my goodness, this dog is matting. Well, okay, I just bathed it. How is it matting? Understanding that, oh, this is the process of that. So you're not sending the dog to the vet just because its hair's
for
falling out
fun.
when it naturally does. Like that's the natural cycle of it.
If a client brings in their dog for a deshed, whether it's the first time, and I'm sure it's different on the first deshed as opposed to if they get it on a regular basis, but let's set a realistic expectation. Well, hello there. Let's
Kevin's
set
here.
a what is a realistic expectation after a deshed? What results can a pet parent plan to actually see? Is there a percentage of hair reduction that they're going to see come out of their dog? What should they actually expect, let's just say, over the next week after a deshed?
It depends on the dog, but they should be shedding way less. Their hair should be probably a lot more shiny, a lot more vibrant, a lot more color to it if it's been hydrated properly. Um, I wouldn't want them to be shedding more. Then that means you come back in because I screwed up. Um, Summer.
You should be able to feel the dog's skin.
Yeah.
I and a week later, you should not see these random tufts coming out from around the neck. I find I had a client who
Pet
called
peeve.
me in to do her special needs dog, and she didn't wait for me to do her other dogs. She has huskies. And I said, "Oh, is that my next dog? Like, is that the next one you're going to schedule with me?" And she goes, "No, this one was just groomed last week." And I'm like, it was all where the loop was. They hadn't brushed that out. Many other problems with the groom, but from up the stairs, I could see that where the loop was, it wasn't brushed out.
Or they didn't use conditioner. Now the coat's blowing. That's the other issue. If they're not conditioning that coat and they've just shampooed it, all the stuff they didn't remove. That's why, I love when people send home with that caveat of, oh, it might shed more now. No, it should not be shedding more. Yeah.
And that also goes down to where we talk about it's not just the shampoo, it is how you do it. It is the skill behind it. And so using the proper tools and the proper processes of using said tools to be able to get, a wide tooth comb through these dogs so that you can make sure that you're combing out to the skin. So you might have the outside brushed out. That doesn't help. It's making sure it's brushed out all the way down to that skin.
All right, ladies, let's get into our rapid fire segment. Some of these are related to deshed, some are not. These are just fun, quick responses, whatever comes to mind. The last one's a little more meaty, so you can feel free to take your time and explore with it. But okay,
Meaty.
yeah.
Ooh.
All right, what is the biggest lie that pet owners tell you about their dogs or their coats?
I brush it every day, which they might be brushing it. They're just not brushing it right, probably. But I brushed him last night. I got a comb through it. It's not matted.
Summer
It
biggest
what
lie.
it wasn't matted when I put it in the car.
You said that last time, and that's just like, if you're gonna
You,
lie, make it feasible, please. Like it got
Yeah,
matted in the
right.
back seat. Like what
We
are we
left the
talking
windows open though.
yeah, and then just whoops. Oh yeah,
about? Do you have a favorite breed to work with or groom?
Hello. I am
Yeah.
a poodle.
they have different ones for different reasons.
I mean, I do love grooming. I love grooming Goldens too. I don't know. I like them. I like naturally looking, like very groomed, but still natural looking grooms. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like a golden, there's a lot you can do on that, and it still looks like you haven't touched it. Like or yeah.
Well, if we're talking about
A pet.
pets,
I just like poodles.
I mean, I like the scissor braids where you can make it look whatever you want. If we're talking about I have to live with it, and what's the easiest to
We're talking
maintain,
live.
we're talking about my sporting dogs because I can only wash half of them and be fine.
Is there a breed that is more difficult to deshed than any other breed? Obviously, it
Woolly
depends.
Malamutes.
Oh my Lord, that even sounds
Yeah.
terrible.
No, yeah. I think, yep.
Or
Um,
like the woolly shepherds.
no, what's the I did one and I sent it home. I didn't finish it because I couldn't do it. It wouldn't let me touch it. Oh, those the Caucasian Shepherd, that weird big the big one you always see in all the memes that are ginormous. No, maybe it's a Mastiff.
The Tibetan Mastiff.
Thank you.
The
I was like the
the
big.
$1 million dogs.
Yeah,
But
I
the
had one I did and it was and I mean I was also very new in grooming. I was still a corporate, but I will tell you, if one called me today, no. No, thank you.
uh the
No, it tried to eat me. But the
mm,
woolly
I
ones are hard because the coats are just, they're not easy to get through because they're that weird undercoaty, like
bay coat
spay coat. Almost like
soft.
if you had like felt, like you felted it. It doesn't, you can't really get a comb. They're gummy. You don't, yeah, the woolly anything.
All right, what Yves Saint Bernard product has the coolest packaging?
I don't know. She's just
Summer,
gonna
summer
try.
with the visual aid. We appreciate it.
You
Is that
So
know,
caviar?
pretty.
no, I like the best lines packaging.
They're both great. All
And
the
I don't
packaging
have
is
Oh,
it
I
great.
near
don't
me.
have that.
But you know the medium bottles and like the shampoo, they have these label is like shiny and
They look
it
like
looks like
gems.
it's just yeah, it's like
They look
yeah,
like gems.
they look like gemstones and they're shiny.
N-
Anything shiny. Um I'm trying to think of it. No, the best line has probably for me like the best. I like having it in my van where the clients can see those
It's
bottles.
so
It looks so
pretty. It's
and then
a
if you get light on
pretty
them,
packaging,
they're like
yes.
hello. There
To
My
you
be
go.
chair started turning.
That was awesome.
okay. All right. Final question for rapid fire. This one's a little more involved.
This is the meaty.
Love to know both. Yeah, this is the meaty one. Where do both of you see the grooming industry evolving to within the next 5 to 10 years? Are we looking at more corporate, possibly more specialized or independent boutiques, business owners like yourselves? I don't know if you've thought about this out loud, but where do we see this industry evolving to within the next 5 to 10?
Hmm. We need regulation. I think too the science I feel is catching up. You know, when I think of when I started and a lot of things were very mechanical and now it's very much like work smarter, not harder kind of stuff. We have better technique. We have more science-based technique. I feel like we're getting more understanding the why behind all the things we're doing, whether it's coat maintenance, prep, better products out. I would love to get some regulation. I think social media has brought a lot of the shortcomings because we don't have regulation and what's going on. I think yesterday I was shown a video that was a mobile groomer advertising. Summer, I don't know if you saw this. They were trying to advertise how much fun they had,
I've heard
right?
about it.
And it's a van traveling on a road. It was not in a parking lot because I had to watch it a couple times with the door open, them playing music, with a dog on the table. And I'm just like even the dogs have fun and the dog is stress panning. The dog is totally freaked out. But it's just like you see things like this that you go, we need regulation. We need something. And I think as much as I hate social media sometimes and it can be toxic, I think it is bringing some of these bad situations to the forefront to go, here is why we need to do X, Y, and Z. Um, so probably in the next 30 years, I think we're gonna start, I hope we're gonna start getting closer to regulating, maybe licensing. I just hope it's done with people that are knowledgeable about our industry instead of leaving it to lawmakers that don't know better. Um, I guess that's my meaty answer.
Very meaty, very robust, very rich.
Just thinking out loud.
So I think it's going to be a split. Like I'm all for regulation and stuff like that, but you are going to, I feel like your mom and pop shops, your smaller companies, they're going to be the ones that are going to have the science behind them. I see a lot of it. When you go to corporate, it's all going to be about money. So you're going to have your client, there's going to be a large split in clients, and I'm already seeing this where it's who is looking at what's best for the dog in general, because those mom and pop shops, or they're going to bring in the more expensive shampoos, the stuff that, and they're going to have the education behind it. When you look at corporate, it's all going to be money. So,
It's a fast turnaround. I mean, that's why I think a lot of us get out of corporate. Because
yeah,
you're there. I think you can learn in corporate. Like, I'm not bashing corporate at all. I think you can learn a lot. You can make your mistakes there, but at the end of the day, it's a bit, they're more of a business. They want numbers,
yeah.
fortunately.
Well, and it's a lot harder to change things in corporate. It takes a lot longer. Where in a mom and pop shop, like if Joe Blow, who owns Sassy Poodle down the road, wants to, I'm sorry,
Is that real? Is that real?
No, no, but I really want to start a shop that's named Sassy Poodle. If they want to change their shampoo, yeah, their prices might increase, but
They can do it.
they can do it. I decided to do it. It's not 100 steps on what to change what ear cleaner we're using. So you're going to have a split in those clients who are going to be like, okay, yes, I understand that I am paying more, but I'm going to the Sassy Poodle and paying more for that education, for that quality, or they do a fine job. I'm just going to take it to corporate X.
I'm dying.
So
Joe Blow from the Sassy Poodle. I feel like
I came up with that one quick.
there's the title of this episode. Sorry.
Joe Blow and the Sassy Poodle.
That could be a book. I don't know. I feel like there's a story there. No, I think you're right.
Zoomies and poop.
Well, ladies,
Yeah.
there's never a dull moment, never an unsassy moment with the two of you. Greatly appreciate it. A myriad of information about the Deshed. I haven't done this before, and if it's okay with you, I'd like to do it. If people want to reach out to either of you and ask specific questions, they can of course comment on the Yves Saint Bernard pages and the Pet Skin Academy pages. Are you guys open to me putting your social media links on the podcast? Because I'm sure people would love to reach out and ask specific questions about the topics. So where can people find you guys on social media?
Sure. I'm on Instagram is The Adventures of Aria and Gavin. And Facebook, it's just me. It's Kayla B, my middle initial, Croto. That weeded out a lot of my clients. And I'm not really. I'm on YouTube. I'm on Facebook more than I'm on Instagram. I'm learning Instagram. I'm trying. That's where you can find me, those two.
I mean, the number one place to find me is Facebook. I can attempt to use Instagram, but I did not grow up with that. So I'm from the MySpace era. So Facebook is yes,
Instagram
Kayla.
came after MySpace.
I understand that. But
That's
I was
nice.
still stuck on Facebook and MySpace, okay?
Okay.
Instagram is a struggle, okay? We're going to be honest.
And then we're going to be at PCA next week. So hopefully we'll have some recap or something.
No question.
We're gonna try to get some like micro videos with some people as we go along. Yeah.
Reach out with questions and topic ideas and who you'd like us to talk to. Yeah.
Ladies, thank you so much for your time. This has been a great episode, action-packed, filled with information. We greatly appreciate it. This has been the For Real Podcast, episode 3. It's all about the Deshed. For Summer, for Kayla, thank you very much for joining the journey with us. Greatly appreciate it.